I am your host, Kemi Amin, and this is Who Are You? A podcast on purpose. Join me for conversations with people near and far about how they are finding their way, with one simple yet complex question. Who are you?
My name is Wanguhu, and I am a husband, a father, and a storyteller.
Episode 7. In this conversation, I had the pleasure of speaking with Roy Wanguhu, a Bay Area-based and globe-trekking director of photography. He is the founder of Elewa, meaning to understand in Swahili. Elewa Camera is a rental house providing industry-leading camera, lenses, and production equipment. Elewa Media is a full film production service that collaborates with clients from concept to execution on projects ranging from commercials to feature films to video web content and more. Roy has worked with brands such as Google, Nike, TEDx, Adobe, Chase Bank, Genentech, and HBO, among many others. I have also had the good fortune of working with Roy back when I ran my stationery company, Greetings from Ogad. He is currently working on a delicious YouTube show featuring none other than his wife, the multi-talented Nanu Wanguhu, called Cooking with Nanu. During the time my conversation with Roy was being recorded, we were right in the middle of global protests in response to the murder of George Floyd. We take the first 15 minutes or so to discuss Roy's experience with the police as a Black African man in America. He then shares his unique path to becoming the entrepreneur he is today. Enjoy my conversation with Roy Wanguhu. One, like I said, congratulations on becoming a new father. That must
Thank you.
be exciting. I mean, 2 years new, right? Almost 2 years. But we haven't seen each other in about almost 2 years. Because
I think after we spoke, I was like, wait, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
We've not checked in. We've been checking in, but we've not really actually just hanged out.
No.
Enjoyed some good food.
Yeah, I know. No, not at all. I know when this is wrapped up, we'll have to make a way to figure that out.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, how are you today?
Oh, how am I today? I'm doing great today.
Mm-hmm.
At least today. I know we've been having conversations in terms of what today and all that. Friday today, it's good. It's been a crazy week, but I'm glad because now we're getting back to being busy. Definitely following the COVID regulations, but at least we're getting back to being busy.
Yeah, for sure. And so, how have you been processing everything with COVID, with the social injustice issues that have been around forever but have reemerged and been reemerging? How have you been coping personally, and then how has everything been impacting your business so far?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot that's happened. Like you're dealing with COVID, and then everything, the social injustices that are happening. It's like anytime you're reading something, it's been exhausting. Especially I think for me coming from Kenya, and then I'm here, and we're all treated the same, and we all have our stories of how all this has affected us. Funny enough, I was talking to a couple of friends, and they're like, oh yeah, what's your relationship with the police? I'm like, I'm terrified of the police. Like, I've never had any good. And I met recently, went somewhere, and there was a just off duty family friends, and there was a cop there, and he's OPD. So I was like, I don't have any good relationship with the police. Anytime that I've been in contact with the police, it's always been a bad experience. Meaning I've been treated as a criminal just from the minute they saw me. So I don't know how you'd expect this conversation to start when there's hostility on one side already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same thing, it's like all my nieces and all of them, like the conversation they usually have with them is, you take a step back, and being African, we've dealt with, we know when problems can come in, and you're taught how to humble yourself completely just to not be in any situation at that point,
Yeah.
right? Because when someone shows that they have the power, you just let them be because you just want to go home, so just being pulled over for nothing and, having to deal with that is, it's rare. So seeing what's happening right now, just, we're all hoping for change,
Yeah.
um, just so at least I don't have to, which I still will, but I'll still teach my son Manyara they what to expect in the America, in what's going on in America, like the reality of when a cop pulls you over, just give him all the power that you can. Humble yourself. Yes, sir. Whatever you need. Put your hands out, whatever they want, just obey the orders. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about just getting out of there safe.
Right.
That's the
'Cause
only
it's your
thing that we
life.
need to be looking at. Exactly. And that's how I've always treated it. So, yeah, it's, having COVID happen and all this, injustices happen. Um, Hopefully there's change on that. But I think at the beginning of this, looking at the COVID part of things, as much as, it's a pandemic and it happened, I think, there was good out of it. It gave us time to spend with the family, spent a lot of time with, with Manyara and my wife, just hanging out in the house, cooking more, taking safe walks, like just around. So we kind of explored within just the neighborhood. We take a little walk or just spend time in the yard and just hang out. So it was some good forced time off,
Yeah.
but I kind of enjoyed it because we both we everyone, like, it's been a cycle. You get so busy, each person doing everything that they are doing, but being in a situation where you're forced to disconnect from everything, it kind of lets you focus in and kind of see who's, the family, everything that's around you, starting to appreciate just the little things that, that we have, that with a busy life, we tend to just, push in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been an adjustment for everyone. And I'm actually really curious because you mentioned that you have not ever had a good experience with the police here in the United States. What has been your experience in other countries? Because you have been all over.
It's interesting, right? Like, and this was shocking, right? Like, we went for a shoot in Australia, right? So in Gold Coast, and for us, because it was, well, what, like five black males from here,
Hmm.
right? So we've all traveled to Australia. We're shooting. It was a series that we're doing called 10 Minute Fix over there, and it was basically following around just the rugby team and the fans um, of rugby there. And it's we didn't know our way around, and we didn't know, so most places that we went to, and I think it was one of the days, we didn't know that the bus has a schedule. Like, we see a bus, it's so slow, so we're like, okay, we can hop onto the bus. And there were, those police, there's authority there, and we like how they, they approach you and they ask you questions, which was actually more of a toned down, like a friendly request than what it is here. Like, you could tell, yes, the authority, but there was a level of politeness to it that none of us felt threatened, that we actually felt like we can have a conversation with them. Now, to that story goes to the bus driver who was on his lunch. We came to find out that was like, I'll just drop you guys. It's just around the corner. Like, there's a, like, here, when you have the power, you have the badge, or you have a certain authority, you have a different way you treat a certain group of people. But it's history here. Now, going to Kenya, that's Africa is a different story. I don't know if you want me to get into that, but
Oh.
Africa is a different story because for them, it's the same thing and it's expected, and we all look, we're all one race, one color, but for them, it's a I have to put this well, because with most countries is corruption, 100%, right? Like the cop is trying to get his money just to, he's not there to really police anything. He's just
Mhm.
fishing for stuff so he can get some cash to put in
Right.
his pocket.
Right.
So, but with that, we are now taking it back to authority on that level. For that, I already know getting into that situation that, all right, I have to be polite because it might cost me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
so we've always, yes, police are there. We know what they do, but for and they do enforce the law, but also the level of that's a government issue that they need to pay them enough. But the fact that I know I need to play nice with this person just so I don't have to pay him because probably what he's trying to arrest me for is bullshit, or in some cases you broke the law, but there's a negotiation and there's an acceptance of power.
Yeah. Yes.
And we humble down, like, to be honest, I don't know any African that you put in front of authority and you put them in front of police or any authority figure that they do understand that and train from early. It's like, this is their space, let them reign in their space, this is not yours, so behave like this is not your space.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go reign somewhere else, but
Yeah.
here kind of play the second part, like just try and get out of there peacefully.
Yeah.
So that's helped survive here. But in some cases, like, you also get challenged when it's happening too often. You know what I mean? Like, it just goes to, and the beauty of America teaches you to ask questions. You know what I mean? Because you do have the right to ask questions. Not that you don't have the right in the other places, but you already know some of those are going to be
Leads to consequences that you don't want.
Exactly. So and like, I had an incident. I was coming from San Francisco. I was going home. Actually, I was like by the lake exit, but there was a cop who followed me like from the bridge, just trailing me. I'm like, okay, I know my tags are good. I had to do, and that's the thing. Like when you see a cop, you kind of start going through all the checks. Okay, my tags are good. I'm not speeding. Everything is good. I'm okay. So, like there's no reason why the cop should be stopping me, right? But taillights are good, fixed, you're good. So I keep going, until I get my exit and, just still following stoplight, everything. He doesn't turn on the lights until after I exit and I'm about to, now make the turn to my place. He turns on his lights. I'm like, okay, all right. You've been following me long enough. You freaked me out because now my heart has been pumping this whole time. I'm like, I do not know. Just pull me over if you're going to do it, but stop following me, So I pull over. He comes. He's like, license and registration. I'm like, okay, is there a reason why you're pulling me over? Because, I don't think there's anything wrong, but, is there a reason why you're pulling me over? He doesn't say anything. It's just like license and registration. He takes it to the back. And now on my passenger seat, I have the camera because I just left the shoot. So I had strapped the camera, the second chair. So he takes it. I'm like, I just, goes to the back, stays with it, comes back. He's like, where are you coming from? I'm like, I'm coming from a shoot. There's a camera on the, passenger seat. Do you need me to roll down my windows? He's like, no, open, so he takes my keys, throws them he's like, turn off the car, bring your keys. He takes the keys, throws them on the dash, on the top of the car. So I'm like, okay, this is escalating. I do not know what to do here because I don't know why you pulled me over. So I'm just thinking it through. I'm like, hey, I can roll down all my windows and you can check all my gear if you need to do that. Because I don't know why I'm being pulled over. Few minutes, 2 cop cars pull up.
Wow.
They stand right next to me. Boy. So I'm like, this whole thing is escalating. And I'm like, I do not know what is happening. So the 2 cops come stand on the other side of the window. So I asked, when the other guy is so heated in the back, I asked the other cop, it's like, what, why am I being pulled over? It's like, I don't know, but you should ask the cop who stopped you. I'm like, I also don't know. I asked him, he's not answering. So one thing, because I had the insurance, but what I didn't realize, one of my insurance papers, I didn't have the recent one in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd given in the previous one. It was the same month, but I guess it had just lapsed. So I know my insurance was good, and I had an email actually already, because they send you. So the guy comes back in. It's like, "Do you have another insurance card? Because this one has expired." Now he's aggressive,
Yes.
right? So I'm like, yes, I do. It's already paid. Let me check. So I'm going through the email because my wife is the one who forwards those emails.
She does the business,
She probably knows these guys. So she had sent it. I'm going through the email right now. I'm like, I do not know what's going on, but I'm gonna find it. So I go through it. The other cop realizes how, like, I'm confused trying to understand what's going on. So I asked him, like, what is going on? I'm like, I do have insurance, and I'm looking at it. He's like, hey, the other way you can. So he just whispers like, your insurance, who are you with? I'm like, I'm with, at that time I was with State Farm. So I'm like, but I know I have the email. So I go find the email. While I'm still trying to get the email, this other cop is like, I'm gonna go talk or whatever, go to the back. He goes and drives off, right?
Who
He
goes
doesn't
to drive off?
the other cop just drives off.
I see.
I'm left with one other cop and this aggressive guy who I do not know what's going on. So the guy comes back. He's like, did you find it? I'm like, yes, here. I asked him, like, so is everything okay? What's going on? He's like, he takes my ID and my the car registration, tosses it inside the car, and just leaves my car keys. Is like, you're good to go, and he just walks away.
Wow.
So this has taken an hour of going, like, I'm just seated in the car. I'm like, I do not know what's going on. So, in the middle of it, I called Kananu, my wife. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to give you a call. I'll let you know I was pulled over, but I do not know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's like instances like those that you find here. I'm glad I got out of that with everything that happened.
Oh
So now, end of the story, I had to come back, open my door, take the keys from the top where he had thrown them, and, kind of turn on my car and go. So I'm like, okay, I guess victim of something. I do not know what that was. And so if you have instances like those, when I see a cop car behind me, you freak out first.
PTSD.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, holding my steering wheel. I do not know. I'll drive as slow as I can. So hey, I'll teach my son to be careful with that. You can't ask questions when it comes to this kind of stuff. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I think that's the thing, and I think that's the thing with Black men in the United States. Whether you are a Black man from the, directly from the continent, from Jamaica, from Europe, Black men who is in the United States, it's a different experience because I have not had I've had attitudinal police officers who are not very friendly. But I've never had that kind of experience before. And I'm sure there are Black women out there who have, but I think overwhelmingly there's a lot of Black men who just can't even just live, like can't breathe, can't live, can't move, can't look, can't do anything. And that's something that, I don't experience. And so it's a very challenging space to be. But I would even say, like, don't stop asking questions. I think, yes, definitely. Your life get out of their life. That's first and foremost. But I think it's important that we continue to ask questions and hold our dignity in that way and continue to intellectually challenge, right? But yeah, definitely. I'm glad you got out of that situation. I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's very triggering.
So true, America.
Yeah, right. Well, given all of that, you talked about your gear in the back of the car.
Yes.
You do film, so you're a director of photography, and you've been doing film and photography for over 15 years. And so what I want to know is, how did you get started?
how did I get started? So I always love cameras. That's one of my biggest, on the creative, and I'm also kind of technical. So I'm always curious if I see something, I'm like engaged with it. Um, so I moved to the US from Kenya, and always love, like just how to tell stories. And I always told stories when I was back home. But my biggest part was if you want to be a, best storyteller, being in the US and, being in California would be your best bet. Um, I was lucky that I had a cousin who was here, Michael Wanguhu, and he's also a filmmaker. So when I came here, still pursuing the, film and trying to understand more about film, I got introduced to a studio in Oakland, West Oakland, and the owner, David Moraney, is one who I took an internship at the studio, which was called CCD, City Center Digital, and I interned there for how many years? Probably 6 or 7 years, and we're still good friends, and I still work with him up to now. But the internship helped me because at that time, coming to the US, um, and still knowing, I knew exactly where I wanted to be was in the camera department. I was very specific, camera
Yeah.
department, because I loved cameras.
Yeah.
So being in, just interning with him, I learned more of how to, you know, I learned a little bit more well-rounded, even though I focused on the camera department in terms of post-production. How does it make, from creating the image to the deliverables, which is the end of the product. So learned, spent time there, and that was my good exposure to how the industry works. Um, but at the same time, as much as I learned there, I took classes in different places that offered specific courses. So the Film Society was one of good resource that I used a lot. The San Francisco Film Society. They would offer classes frequently. I don't know if they still do actually, but they were great classes. So they would bring in people who work in the industry to come and teach specific classes. So I would take classes there um, to kind of advance on it. Now, at that time, my thought was, okay, moving from Kenya to here, you have to do the 4 years community college to kind of transfer to. And while I was doing that, I was very specific in the camera industry, and I started looking at, okay, what would it take me to get from there to go to film school? And now that was the vision, right? Go take classes and go to film school. And then knowing myself, I'm a very visual learner and a hands-on learner. So if I'm on set and working with equipment, I'll grasp that knowledge and also still study more just to build a well-rounded. And I realized that was a better way for me to learn than sitting in a classroom and looking at the curriculum and what was needed, especially since I already had my mindset on exactly what I wanted to focus on. So I took the route of more apprentice than, and now going back to the internships than actually going to film school.
Yeah.
So my journey was more just taking internships and giving a call to people who were doing better than I was. At that time, there was not much that I was doing, but there were a lot who are out there that were better than I was, and I would, ask for the opportunity to go work with them, kind of see how they work, just so at least I can add some more tools in my tool belt. So that helped a lot, and that's what's kept me in the industry. And I still, now I still have, interns or people who are still starting, because that's one thing that I look at. I was like, someone created an opportunity for me, so best thing I can do is put that forward and create an opportunity for someone else. But from that, I still try and find ways to learn, because I don't think it's an industry that you can say I'm done and now I just practice. No, there's always one new thing that you need to add to your tool belt.
Yeah, that's interesting because you've taken a route that I think education might be going anyways, of like selective learning, choosing in which way you want to learn and seeking
Mhm.
those opportunities out rather than having to go through this whole preset process. So it's almost customized learning. So that's interesting that
Yes,
you're able to do
yes.
that and avoid those huge student loans. Good for you.
I know. Yeah, it helps a lot,
Yeah.
especially when you look at it and you're like, wait, I have to pay for this, because my parents were not going to be paying for that. That would be coming out of my pocket.
Right.
Like I have to pay for this. So how do I still get to where I need to go without carrying all this weight?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and people, if you ask, people are willing to share the knowledge. That's what I
Mhm.
learned. People are there's a lot of good people out there and they're willing to share the knowledge.
Yeah, that's huge. That goes beyond film too. Like it's just so important to be able to ask for help and
True.
ask for what you want. And so, director of photography, what does that mean? What do you do in that role?
So, director of photography basically encompasses two departments. So you have the camera department and the lighting department. Now, with the film industry, there's a lot of moving parts. And to be able to make them work well, you need a head to actually make sure at least there's a smooth transition or there's a smooth communication of the departments. So the camera department and the camera department, you have the camera operators. And then in the lighting department, you have the head who's the gaffer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the director of photography is the one who oversees those two departments, meaning he makes sure that the lighting and the camera lens is in the right focal length or in the right position, and the lighting that's there works with what's happening. So he brings everything together. So just making sure both the departments work. The director of photography um, is the one who plays that position. Um, it's a little bit different, especially for a lot of filmmakers who are coming in coming in and having to do it all, meaning it's videographer. It's a very interesting word. I don't know, for the longest I resisted the word videographer, but you can't you can't you can't help it,
Yeah, well,
um
director of photography has a nice ring to it.
it does, and that's what we all do and aspire to do. But with the scale down productions, you end up being, I think it comes from the photographer videographer. It's like there's a
Sure.
photographer. Okay, you're doing video. Okay, you're the videographer, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
But so if you're doing that, most cases you end up being a one-man team kind of situation where
Mhm.
there's no, you are the director of photography, but you don't have a department. You are that department. So you're doing the lighting, the camera, the sound. You're just the videographer basically. But yeah, so director of photography comes from that, and that's in my position or in what I do. That's why I fall in, where we'll have um, a gaffer who's the head of the lighting, and then we'll have the cam op, and then we'll just work together and make sure at least everything comes together and be able to create an image.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as far as what you do, it sounds like that it's a little more it's on the technical side. It's the technical side of creating a film, while a filmmaker is the one who's directing the story, right?
Exactly. And like with our positions, we are kind of on, we are labeled as technicians.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we, as much as we are creative, when you give us the camera, we'll shape the light, kind of see how does that work with the story. There's an element of creative that we bring to the piece, and how I look at it is I spend the time with the director, understand what they're trying to relay or what their story and their message is, and visually work with them to be able to shape that.
I see.
But I also need the technical ability to be able to know what tools can I be able to use to help them tell that story the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. So it's technical,
So
creative.
it's technical and creative. But the reason why the director would come to us is also the technical side help, in terms of, hey, okay, they understand the technical a little bit. in terms of, okay, let me show you how this would look in this lens. Does
Yeah.
that help you relay the story? Does that give you the distance between, how you want your audience to feel when they look at, Kemi just in front of the screen? How
Mhm.
tight do you want us to be? Like, should we move in closer? So the lensing part, will kind of, okay, I understand what you're looking for. This lens might help you tell it at this a certain way that works for you.
I
So
see.
we help on the technical, but we come in from understanding those two worlds and kind of bringing that together.
Yeah, and I mean, I think people in general, or there's an idea out there that technical doesn't inherently mean creative, but when you bring in the very real, the very real idea of problem solving that
Yes,
technicians always have to do, then creativity is very inherent.
that is true. That is true. Yeah, I think, and the beauty is, and to some extent, not all, cinema director photographers are technical,
Mm-hmm.
but I think you have some more, I love tinkering, as I call it, like with, gadgets or whatever, building stuff. So
Yeah.
it works for me that I can be able to kind of put things together just to make something work.
Yep. So someone said about you, Roy is a hardworking, talented director of photography and camera operator. Whether he is holding the camera steady, chasing animals in Nairobi National Park in the back of a Jeep, or he is designing dynamic lighting setups to make drab corporate offices look awesome. So given that review,
That's a lot.
given that review, can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about how you developed your skill set? Like how experiences and how maybe failing, running into challenges like we were talking about earlier, how has that made you a better director of photography?
Um, so in terms of just the journey,
Yeah.
I think, as that just from the, just being in different environments, um, that's helped a lot. And I always look at new challenges to at least, because I always look at them as a learning experience. So yes, there are limits of how far I can push the craft. I'm not, there's a level of risk that as much as I, and this one, I think the missus will be happy if I say it, because sometimes she says, you're just too daring. When you put the camera, when I have the camera on me, there's no place I'm not gonna go, because it's like a part of my brain just shuts off and
Mm.
it just goes into a mode of, this is amazing, I need to get it. So if it's the animal right next and the shot is so good, it's like someone needs to be there to pull him back, because he might get too close, because like this is a really nice shot. But that's, so that's helped in a way in terms of being able to get into places or being able to tell different kinds of stories. Um, but I've always, I think from the beginning, I opened myself up to new ways of learning, which is I'd like to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I will, if I've never done it and the team that I'm with are willing to try it, then we will actually do it at a safe, definitely with safety in mind. So that's opened up to me being able to find myself in different environments
Mhm.
and different kind of stories that I'm able to tell. Um, from traveling, it was 30 days through Africa, just the continent, and we're going to different countries, spending like a day or two in each country,
Mhm.
capturing and telling stories about basketball in Africa. So that, that's definitely new. I'm from Kenya and I've traveled, but some of those countries, didn't know anything about, but I was, willing to actually go there, just kind of tell that story over there. So I think the openness of being able to understand and taking on the challenge has helped me fail, has let me fail. Like I've failed in some of the projects, but that's because either we were too ambitious or something changed in the middle. But also I took something out of it. I always look at everything as it wasn't a fail, it was a learning lesson.
Right.
Like I learned something that on the next project, I can know what to bring in, or I can know this doesn't work because of A, B, C, and D. So I think to answer your question, I think that would be that would be my approach to it.
Yeah, no, I love that, is that you like being uncomfortable. And I think that's something in general that I've had to grasp in learning how to, in my journey towards whatever success means for me, is I've had to embrace being uncomfortable and accept it as a reality of ambition, really, to continue to grow. So I love that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And that's good, I think I read it years back somewhere when, because you, let me see if I'll do justice to it. It's because if you're waking up every day and you don't feel a little bit of not really fear, but a little bit of not knowing what to expect, especially for me, like on a, if it's a project that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
And like at, that evening your mind is going through it, you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna pull this off. That before you understand it, you're like, that is a good thing. You know what I mean? Because that's a challenge that now you've put yourself through to figure out how to kind of accomplish that, or how to kind of deliver on that. And when you finish the project and you look back, you're like, okay, we pulled this off. Definitely it takes a team, and we pulled this off. It's a good relief compared to like if I'm waking up and I'm like, okay, I know what I'm gonna do today. I'll just set up this light. I'll just put a backlight here and do this. Like you're not getting challenged at all.
Yeah.
There's no challenge to actually get up and go create something that you've not done before. So I always look, whenever that feeling is there, now I just don't panic. I'm like, okay, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. I need just to figure out. You panic.
I panic.
I used to panic. I used to panic. I'm like, but especially if you're, back to the title of the director of photography, if you're if you panic and then in the morning you show up panicked, everyone on your team is expecting you to know what you are, what's happening today. They all showed up confident. They're like, yeah, Roy knows what we're doing today. Yeah, deep down, you have no idea. You're making it up as you go, but you have to keep that straight face of, yeah, no, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's what I like to call the African smile. So I've hidden the panic behind it. Yes, everything is okay.
Everything is okay.
But on the inside, it's like, what the hell are we about to do to get this done? So I get, yeah. That's been my experience.
No, I like that one. Actually, I love it. I love it.
And so can you walk us through the process of working with a client? What is that? Someone comes to you and wants to do a project in person, maybe pre-COVID, and then post-COVID, how has that changed?
Totally changed, right? Because now the client can't fly. The client or the director, if it's a New York director, most of the time we'll have, okay, it's a New York production company, or it's a New York agency, and they want to capture something locally, right? So before, you'd have them fly probably to, producer and a director or someone from their creative team to come in and kind of be the, and the client just come in and oversee what's happening here. Um, with COVID now, that's changed because they can't really fly here, right? And also on our team, I have to kind of keep it as a smaller team just for the safety and making sure that everyone is safe. So what that looks like now, we've added the element of Zoom is the best resource, and we're using Zoom a lot. And what the element is, before we'd have the production happening, the camera signal is sent to a director's monitor and a client's monitor. So we'd have two monitors. If the director is probably closer to us, the team that are shooting, and then the client is a little bit farther back, seated somewhere taking notes, or just seeing if everything that is we're capturing works with their story, right? And they're consulting. So three elements, right? The client is in conversation with the director is in conversation with the director of photography. So the director is the one who's kind of managing us, making sure like we're getting everything that he has promised the client, right? But now with COVID, what you've eliminated is all the parties. All right. So if it's a New York production, the director can't be able to fly. So that table is empty now. The client not able to fly, that is empty now. What that's turned it into, it's turned it into more of a Zoom patching, virtual director client conversation room. So with everything that we set up monitors and everything, but now we're patching it out to people who are not on site. So that's the new challenge that is happening. With bigger productions, I'm able to bring in a director so I can focus on the visual. On some of them, I end up being the director. So I have to get my, which we do have a good team of camera operators, and so the whole department, and then I manage the directorial side. I do a little bit of directing. That's new for me in terms of like, I still I've not exhausted my part as the director of photography on the visual side, but I also direct some of the pieces. So now it feels like I have to wear that hat a little bit more as a producer director, just to make sure, because we have to stay lean, we have to stay small and still get the job done. That used to be captured with a lot more people on site. So it has changed a lot. But the beauty of it is it's still another challenge, another way of us to actually be able to deliver. And when we deliver the product with the small team and it's actually done well, actually just yesterday the client actually even emailed us, was like, wait, that was because it had a lot of moving parts, and the fact that we were able to accomplish the whole project and they were able to see everything in New York, and they were able to interact with the talent on set. Everything was seamless without them being there. They were at home, half of them were in the office, and they're just like having conversations. They're like, okay, let's take another take of that. That was really good. So it's a pass through, but it's a remote pass through for them now. So we slowly ended up building those kind of ways to actually still stay busy and still keep the flow of work and the projects going.
Any predictions for the future of filmmaking after post-COVID?
I think the way of working has, especially with the idea of remote, that they don't have to be there, it's going to change a lot, right? So now it's going to be a case of only the people who are really, really necessary or really needed to be on site or need to fly over to be there are the only ones who are actually going to be coming. Because what that means is if you're here just to kind of see or take notes, because some of them, you'll have someone from legal, you'll have marketing, you'll have all these departments just show up on set. If the idea now is, okay, you can do it from wherever you are, we'll just give you that same signal that we used to send you to sit in the back. can send that to wherever you are. Just log in and you'll have access to it. Take your notes. If you have any feedback, email them back, or in the same chat, just chat with someone and mention that should not be said this way, it should be said the other way. Just simplify everything. So it will reduce the amount of teams that show up on set. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just hope it doesn't affect our side, because we still do need the number of people that we've always had. When you get one person to do two positions, you can get, it affects time basically. And that's how I always look at it. It's like, if we eliminate one person out of the team, that means someone else is doing work for two people. So account for the time it's going to take. It's not going to be the same amount of time, because we need to balance all this. So just hope at least we'll be able to get back to putting teams together as we used to.
Mm-hmm. What is Elewa?
Elewa means to understand. So the idea of, it's Elewa Camera, so it's to understand cameras. And the goal is, just from that now, as a production, we handle more, but mostly is understanding the technical side and also the storytelling side, being able to tell the stories that are needed to be told. So when I was coming up with them, I was like, I need something that connects me to, where I'm from, or, what I speak, which is Swahili. And Elewa felt like and Elewa was the best one, because it connects, it's a Swahili word, and also has meaning that relates to what I do, which is Elewa Camera. So to understand cameras.
And so Elewa Camera, what do you do?
Elewa Camera, there are two parts of Elewa. There's Elewa Media and Elewa Camera. Elewa Camera is more on the rental side. Even though now we just slowly we're bringing it together into just one brand and one all in one house, meaning Elewa Camera just managing the media and the camera side. But Elewa Camera is a rental house, and we rent, cameras and lights to, industry folks here in the Bay Area who are doing production.
Got it. Yeah, I thought that was such a great idea, to renting equipment. There's such a need for that these days. So especially like people are becoming more technical, more DIY, doing things themselves. So to have equipment is very expensive. So to have the ability to rent,
it is
great.
It is. And like the media part has always been there. The camera side came in because I slowly started accumulating equipment back to the technical. So if I'll rent it and I'm like, okay, this is a great tool, I'd like to do more with it, or like adjust a few things. You can't do that to a rental camera because you have to return it. So I ended up buying a camera, and slowly you start, as you're adding on to your toolbox, you end up adding a few pieces and a lens and something else. And slowly I started realizing, okay, I'm fortunate enough that I was able to get the camera that I got, but there are people who actually are not able to, but they still need the tools. So as just another source of revenue, is like, okay, I can also rent it. And it also started from just renting from two friends. And that's how, Elewa Camera, we're not the atypical like rental house where it's just, big warehouse, all types of cameras, but most of the gear that we actually have is gear that we frequently use. So we made sure these are tools that we are familiar with, and we use them too for our projects are the same ones that actually we rent. So we know 100% the equipment that goes out works, and we are very technical at it. So if you need a technician for that camera, it's not a brand new piece of tool. It's equipment that we know how it works. We can actually help you set it up, and goes back to the understanding of it. So, we do understand the technology, we do understand how it works. And if you need a technician, we can also send you out with a technician to use the camera.
I see. And the media side is?
So the media side is more of the production. So we do video production, and that's why slowly they're both merging together. I think at this point we're just gonna merge because the camera brand is actually bigger, and we're known as, we'll bring in the crew, we'll bring in the technicians or the crew, and we'll bring in the equipment. So those two worlds already exist together now for us, where we'll go to a project, work with a production company or work with an agency, and we just bring in the team that knows how to use the tools, and the team and the equipment will bring all that for the production that we're going for. So it eliminates any thought of, oh, where do I get this piece of gear? So we'll assemble all that for you based off of the understanding of what your project is, and then we can work with you on deliverables.
What does your work say about you?
What does my work say about me? That I'm very diverse with the projects that I take.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm open for challenges. I think, and that's helped a lot. It's helped, but also as now going back to this, because it's a question actually that it's something that I had to look at recently, because one of my friends asked me, they're like, okay, because right now I do have friends who are not working,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the industry picked up, but it picked up very different kind of channels, right? So you have people who focus on documentaries, you have people who focus on commercials, you have people who focus on tech, and you have people who focus on film, meaning they're just doing feature films all through the year, right? So with that happening, you had folks who were in certain niche markets, and they're not working because their market hasn't opened up. For me, I think, and if you look at my my site, it's very diverse. But it's always been like, I'm doing documentaries, or I'm doing a commercial, or I'm doing tech, or I'm doing a film. That's helped, but also I think in some cases, being a niche cinematographer is what people aspire to be, where you're known only for the commercials, or you're known only for the feature films. But I feel like with the new way and the new distribution channels that are happening, I would like to actually keep my options open. Yes, I can do A, I can do B. When I am on B, I am, because it's all about the lighting and the stories.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was stuck doing one line only, kind of the excitement goes. There's definitely some of them that, for the longest, there's some jobs that definitely you wouldn't do because they don't pique your interest. But when it comes to storytelling, if it's a great story that I feel like I would lend more working with you in telling it, I'm always open to doing it. So having my portfolio in different places has probably helped me stay working. I'm grateful for that. So my work speaks more, and I love stories,
Mm.
and I'm willing to tell stories on every channel, depending on what country that we go to, or wherever we are. I'm always looking for a good story.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that what you're doing right now is aligned with your purpose?
It is. Yes, what I'm doing, it is aligning, and I'm still working to meet that. But I'm still learning enough, so when it comes time to actually get that, the project that we are looking for, because where I think my biggest goal is, as much as I've balanced those two worlds, Now it's a little bit less, like especially now with COVID, we're not traveling. My also goal is also to tell stories about where I'm from. So my engagement is at least to tell a lot more African stories, because I know there's a ton of them, and we've not even scratched the surface on those stories.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I asked you, you probably have 5 right now that only people in your clique or people who grow around you know of.
Oh yeah.
So when Hollywood says, oh yeah, we've kind of capped on the stories, we're like, there's stories you guys don't know. And they'll be amazing to see on screen, So my goal is, definitely, and hopefully I'll work, but I feel like, still it will align at some point.
Yeah.
But my whole picture is to be a part of telling the stories from Africa.
I see. Thank you for that. And what is, I mean, you talked about stories, and I'm assuming when you say your goal, that's your working purpose right now.
That's my working purpose. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, it is.
And so what's next for you?
What's next for me? To keep telling the stories that I have close by. Yeah. So now I'm much start from where you are instead of waiting to get to where you need to be.
Oh yeah.
To start doing it. So one of the what I'm working on right now during quarantine, I started shooting a cooking show with Nanu, my wife. So it's called so Cooking fun. With Nanu.
Oh, I love that.
So Cooking with Nanu should be coming out. I'll share it with you. I think the teaser trailer should be coming out soon. But we have, we've already captured about 7 or 8 episodes all done. And it just captures food. So we focused on the African dishes or the Kenyan dishes. So from chapati, mandazi, these are all like just Kenyan dishes that I love to eat. And I was like, we can make a show out of that, and I can get free food. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, you gotta let me know when that comes out. I want to try making, because I make some Nigerian food, but that would be great to like experiment with other countries in Africa. So yeah.
We will get you on when you're cooking, because the next one is gonna be having guests. So we gotta get you on. Come and show us how to put that together.
Okay, give me a heads up so I can practice first, then then come.
No, there's no practice. It's like we want it all natural. It's like, it's not very. It's like, oh wait, you put salt. And one thing that we learned is, here everything has the quantity. Like, oh, you gotta put this amount of it. It's like if you ask your mom or any of them, it's like you just put it. Just keep putting it until you know it's enough. How do I know? You will know.
Until it feels right. That's how I cook. So it is passed down for sure.
I know. I asked Nanu the same thing. I was like, okay, so now I need to come up with how much you put in there. I was like, I don't know. I just know when it's right. I was like, okay, all right, we'll just work on it and just do it. Like all the dishes are like, I don't measure it. I just eyeball it.
That's so funny. You know what would be nice though is like, she's like, okay, three snippets of this. When she's doing this, she translate it for people on the screen. That means 3 teaspoons.
Actually, that's a good one. It's like this. I know.
You can check out Roy's work at roywanguhu.com. That's ROYWANGUHU.com. If you are interested in renting some pretty fancy camera equipment, be sure to visit elewacamera.com. That's ELEWA camera.com. And I highly recommend his latest project, Cooking with Nanu. That's Cooking with NANU on YouTube. Watch episodes of this podcast on YouTube. There is always a link in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button. You can also listen to episodes wherever you get your podcasts. To get more content not shared anywhere else, subscribe to the email list at waypodcast.com. That's WAYPODCAST.com. Until our next conversation, I am your host, Kemi Amin.